And welcome. Just doing a follow-up to the previous video that you saw where we replaced the cooling fan in the iCharger X8, and we're running into a little bit of an issue. The fan itself does work. You can probably hear it, and it's throwing out a fair bit of heat, and it works okay for the dish unit in charge mode. But when we're doing a discharge test, as you can see here, you'll notice this number. We'll move that up a little closer. You'll notice that temperature is in amber, and it's right about 159 degrees. And although this fan is able to hold it there at about 159 degrees, that is considerably warmer than this charger used to get doing a discharge using the internal resistors than what it would when it was running the factory fan. Now, even though according to the specs in the factory fan and the fan that we chose as a replacement in the previous video had the same CFM, a little bit less on the amperage draw, but it had the same RPM, same CFM, it seems to just not be pushing as much air as that factory fan is. Now, the factory fan was a Chinese part number, and found a little bit of information on the web, but not very much. So it could very well be that the information that's being published for that fan may not necessarily be the correct information for it. Another thing we've noticed about this particular replacement fan is that when you first turn these iChargers on, you'll hear that fan initially come on at a fairly high rate of speed. It's full speed. And this fan, when it does that, it's not near as loud as a factory fan is, which tells me that this fan just is not spinning enough or providing enough CFM to keep this unit cool. I mean, even the top here where part of that heat sink sits is fairly warm, warmer than I'm comfortable with. Again, if I'm doing just a normal charging cycle, it handles it just fine, keeps it in a normal range of temperature. But for discharge, like you see here, this will stay amber. Now, it doesn't get hot enough to cause the charger to turn off, but it's still kind of in that warning zone right there, which is an area it never used to get into. So we did a bunch of research on the net and tried a couple other fans that you can see here. It's kind of a graveyard of different fans. They all kind of more or less had the same problem. They were rated for the same voltage, same amperage, and even the same CFM per the specs on the old fan. They more or less have the same problem. They're just not able to push enough air. So we did a little bit more digging, and we ran across this fan here put out by Ya Racing, and that fan is listed same voltage, anywhere from 5 to 7.2 volts, as you can see, and the amperage on this is about, I think it was about 0.28 instead of 2.5. So it's a little bit bigger amperage draw than what the factory fan would push. But this particular fan is rated, let me get that label again. This particular fan is rated at, I believe it was 14,000 RPMs and about 5.2 or 3 CFM. But that's the part number that you can see there. Hopefully that's in focus. Now, this is an aluminum housed fan, but same dimensions as what came out of the unit. And what we are going to have to do, like we did in the other fans, that we're going to have to drill these holes out a little bit bigger to fit the mounting posts inside the iCharger. But we're going to get this fan installed and see if this fixes our heat issue. If it does, I'll put a link to where we acquired this fan, but there it is again. It's what they call their Tornado Plus fan. Hopefully that's in focus there. But we'll get this fan installed and we'll bring it back. And if you remember the last cut we left off, we were putting in a replacement fan into iCharger. It was a Ya Racing one. Just to let you know that the fan itself is an aluminum case, and you do have to unfortunately drill through it to get the holes big enough to mount into the holder, the previous holder. But I just wanted to show you the case here. Did have to make some modifications to the case because the fan It doesn't have these little grooves in it that the standard fan did. It's a completely flat casing on that fan. So on the bottom of this case here, you can kind of see these marks. They're very small. They're like little mounting tabs, little guide tabs, and they easily can just be peeled off with like a small flat bladed screwdriver or a small pair of cutters. And those had to come out in order to get the fan to seat in this case properly. We're going to continue with the installation on this, and then we'll bring you back and see if this fan fixes their heat issue. And we're back with the unit assembled. Sorry for the noise, but as you can hear, it is a lot louder of a fan. That is due because of such a high RPM that it's rated for, as well as the airflow, the CFM per minute. Once again, just to put it here on the camera so you had it, put the label back together. Sorry, I ripped it earlier while taking it out of the package. That is the manufacturer of the fan, and this is the model. Don't worry, I'll put a link down in the description where I purchased this particular unit. But as you can hear, yes, it is louder, but it is working. Much more airflow, hot air being discharged out of the side, and you can also feel a more amount of air being drawn into the case. And we're stabilizing right around 139 to 140 degrees at this point. And the good thing about that is that we're not getting into that 160 degree temperature that we were, which was causing the unit to go into, you know, kind of cautionary mode. Again, the first fan we used wasn't allowing the unit to get past, I think it was about 162 or 63 degrees. It wouldn't go any higher. It would eventually plateau, but it would stay kind of in that amber area and never drop down to the white colored numbers that you see here. This fan, from the looks of things, is accomplishing that job. It's going up slowly. I'm just waiting for it to plateau. That you can see it's bouncing between 140.9 and 141. So we're going to let this run a little bit longer. Then we'll let it run for about 20-25 minutes. And then we'll bring you back for a final judgment. Well, the final test result, after discharging what is now our fourth headway battery, or cell, in a row, I should say, we are stabilizing out at about 142.5 degrees. Much better than the 162 to 63 degrees that we were seeing earlier, that again was putting it into that, you know, warning, caution type zone. As you can hear, it is a much louder fan to deal with, but seems to be doing the job quite nicely and keeping this charger reasonably cool. Yeah, it's nowhere near as hot on the sides as it was getting before. And with that, that's a wrap. Hopefully this video will give you some useful information. And like I said, in the description will be a link to where I purchased that particular fan. Talk to you later. Bye.